Alright guys, welcome to part 6. Today we're changing the entire engine harness. The old harness is just too short, so we got one off an E39 5 series with the same motor, and we're going to strip the first one off, put the new one on, and I'll show you how to do it. And there will be the return of the masking tape and Sharpie, so that way we don't forget any connectors, because that's always going to be a goose chase trying to figure out what's going wrong, what's not working. So we're going to mark all the connectors that come off, put the same markings on all the connectors that we're putting on, and as you connect the connector, we're going to rip the masking tape off so we know everything's connected, and once we see no more masking tape, that means we're good to go. So cue the time lapse. So you might have noticed that we were having an incredibly difficult time removing the old DISA valve. This is why. This actually happens on my 330 motor a while back when we were doing the smoke test, and it looks like the same thing happened. The bottom pin snapped and the flap became wobbly, and it actually lodged itself nice and crooked and was blocking its own exit because it was sitting like this, and it was wider than the hole, so as you would pull on it, it would lodge itself further and further. So you had to actually take a screwdriver and push it back, and through the hole in the bottom, just push it out of the way so the whole assembly can come out. If that ever happens, make sure you locate this pin that holds it, because this will make an engine cry once it gets inside the cylinder. But yeah, it looks like we got it off. This is a pretty simple rebuild. It's not that expensive and it's not that hard. As long as the vacuum diaphragm holds, so you can test it by pushing the actuator in, which is very hard when the flap is completely gone. But if you push the actuator in, cover this vacuum port, and let go. If it stays mostly in place, then your vacuum diaphragm is good, because when you let go, it should extend. So this one has a good vacuum diaphragm, so it can be rebuilt. Onward. Time to just remove the last of the wiring harness. We have about, I'd say, 75% of it removed, or disconnected. And as we go, we're just labeling everything. And then before we put the new one in, we'll put the same labels on the new one. And as we connect, just take off the pieces of tape. So wish us luck. We got the old harness out. It was a royal pain, and I don't ever want to do it again. But it wasn't too complicated. You basically unplug, label, and like this is something, I can't actually read it because when you're writing upside down, it's a little challenging to see what you're writing, but now we just have to transfer whatever we wrote here onto the new harness and then put it back exactly how it was, and hopefully it'll work just fine.
Something wrong, mommy crying, daddy gone, wasn't me, nosebleeds, empty fridge, no groceries, teardrops running down my face, it's just one of those days.
So we've transplanted some of the new harness, we had to make a slight modification for our coolant temp sensor. This is the sensor the E39 uses. It's actually a dual sensor, so it sends out two outputs. And this is the sensor plug we use on an E46, only one output. And the sensor information is read out on the dash via CAN. So on the E39, you have two outputs, one for the dash, one for the ECU. On the E46, there's only one because it uses one for both. Because we don't have that dual temp sensor, as much as I'd love to have it, because it'd make wiring it significantly easier, we don't. So I just spliced in the connector from the old harness, so this will plug right into our coolant temp sensor, and then I just bandaged it while leaving the old connector available, so if one day we do get the right sensor, we can just wire it in like it would from the factory. We also went ahead and repaired any part of the harness that was missing its loom tube, so just went around it with electrical tape to keep water to a minimum. We just have to connect the rest of the connectors, and that'll be it for this harness job. And then we can also put the other half of the harness on this part of the motor. That's only two connectors for each O2 sensor, so that should be quick. Let's finish this up. Night 2, and we successfully transplanted the wiring harness, so we have an E39 engine harness, and we also were able to plug in our O2 sensors, and everything went off relatively easy. There are a couple of connectors that are in some hard to reach places, but our technique of labeling each connector made it easy to figure out where they go. For tonight's operation, we have to take care of the back half of our cooling system. So over here, this is actually a hose off an E46, and I've cut it already to make it a little shorter, and now I'm going to do the final cut. This feeds hot water to the heater control valve from the back of the motor. Then the heater control valve has these two outlets that go to the heater core right here. And then there's a third outlet that goes from the heater core all the way to, there's a hose over here, and then that tees with the heater core hose, so they form into one T, and then there's one hose that goes to the expansion tank. If that's not exactly clear, you'll see it once we start putting it together, but basically it goes hot water, heater valve, heater core, return, T, expansion tank. Complicated, but once you see it, it'll make sense. So let's do it.
I see it much clearer now. I see it much clearer now. So much clearer now. I've made some mistakes in the past, but something that is cannot change. I try to do the best that I can to push it all away, but I would do it all again. I would do it all again, yeah. I would do it all again, and again.
This is one of the custom parts of the build. Our alternator does not fit because of our T for our cooling pipes. The thing that it's actually getting caught on is this, and this on the E46 bolts to a cooling duct that mates with the brake cooling ducts on the front bumper. Its usefulness is very, very up in the air. We're going to hack it off and make it fit, because that's the only thing stopping it from fitting. Otherwise, it looks like everything has set nicely. We've even hooked up our evap line, which was a challenge in itself. But let's just hack this off. I'll probably get tired of using a handsaw and find something a little more powerful very quickly. That'll do it. actually tied up the majority of our wires and soldered it all together. Now we just have to put together our main positive feed for the ECU, and it's a little bit chunky, and a regular soldering iron or gun won't cut it, so I got this plumber's torch, and this will make a real quick job out of this. Hopefully I don't set the car on fire though. Alright, so we're coming to the final stages of the project. We bled the clutch after we hooked up the clutch line with some new fresh fluid. We also hooked up our power steering, our new lines, and filled and bled that. Intake, MAF, hooked that all up. You still need to get an air filter, but that's easy enough. Now we have to take care of our cooling hoses. We have to get the quick connectors off the M54 hoses and graft them onto our E36 hoses. And then after that, we have to just hook it up to this heater line, which we've made and cut to size. We've also modified our fan shroud a little bit. This actually is where the old expansion tank used to be attached to. So the fan shroud would sit over here. Because we now have another Vanos, it meant that our expansion tank could not be mounted in the stock location. And we've decided to forego the mechanical fan and go for a SPAL electric fan. That'll go behind, so we don't actually need this anymore. And I've cut out the bracket that would actually hold the expansion tank, and I riveted it to the radiator. Now we just have to plumb our cooling system, put some water in the motor, and we can actually start it for more than 5 seconds. Especially now we have our belts as well, and hopefully give it a test drive. But right now, cooling system, radiator has to be taken care of. So let's make these hoses, and let's get to it.
I'm on fire, you take me higher. Let's kiss the night and break the day.
Alright guys, that'll do it for this episode. In the morning we are going to go get some goodies and everything we need to do our first test drive. But the radiator is plumbed, heating system is plumbed. What else do we do? Power steering plumbed, intake plumbed, exhaust, headers taken care of with O2 sensors, all the wiring's been taken care of. Wiring done, just not wrapped up yet in case something goes wrong with the test. You have to modify something. It's all still relatively accessible. Interior put back together. Clutch bled and attached, possibly working. We'll find out tomorrow. We got our shifter all hooked up, and yeah, I mean, it's good progress. And we've checked the ECU for any codes before we get started. Nothing stands out in particular is going to explode. So stay tuned for next episode, and hopefully the test drive will go off without a hitch. I'll catch you next time.
Thank you.